welcome to my home garden. It is a lot bigger this year than last year. I think it's at least a third bigger than it was last year. Today I'm working on putting down my paper and mulch like I did last year. It takes quite a while to get that done, but the reward is that then I do almost no weeding for the rest of the season. So a lot of work in the beginning saves me a ton of time later in the season, and it looks really great. So that's what I'm working on today. You can also see these poles. I'm going to use these for my tomatoes this year. I'm sick of tomato cages, so I'm doing poles with strings. I'll show you a little bit more about that later, but I don't want to fight with cages anymore, so this is what I'm doing. So we did already till the garden this season. Last year, when all my plants were done, we threw all of our garden compost in. We did a good till in the fall, and then this spring we've tilled it I think twice now, so the garden soil's ready. I did also do some raking to get rid of any high and low areas to make it a little bit more flat. Planting tomatoes right now in my garden, and it's important that you dig pretty deep. You want to bury your tomatoes a little bit deep on the stem because it'll help them be a little bit more stable, and they'll root from any part of the stem that you bury. So I'm going to plant the tomatoes a little bit deep. Reminder that these pots that we have our herbs and veggies in, a lot of our perennials are compostable, but they do not break down as fast as the roots, so do not plant in them. Just plant your plant, take the pot, and then you can just sort of rip it up. I'm going to put vines on the strip here because this part of the garden is new and so it doesn't have as good of soil as the middle part. So this will be vines. They just don't need as much nutrients as things like tomatoes. Thanks, Beatrice. And then up there where the sprinkler is, I put in corn and okra and bush beans. There's tomatoes along the stakes here, and for now I just have poles. I'm going to run string to each plant, and then I'll be tying them onto the strings as the season goes on. Carrots and beets are over here, and then our experiment peanuts. Middle section is going to be cutting garden for Lily to cut flowers. Good morning. Today I'm tying up my tomatoes. So I'm tired of tomato cages because I get these great tomatoes, and then in August when they're full of fruit they start to fall over. So I needed new cages this year, so instead of cages I'm doing this. It's the first year I've done this, so we'll see how it works for me. I've seen it done by other people. But we have metal poles in the ground, and then we have some cabling. Jared helped me engineer this, and then I'm just going to use twine. It's called agricultural twine, and I'm just going to use this to make a string across the bottom and then tie strings from the cabling down to the bottom string. And then as the season goes on, I will be tying the tomatoes up onto that single string and getting rid of the suckers so that we're producing more fruit instead of more branches. So this part is the part that I'm not so sure how this is going to work, but I think that gravity will make this work fine. A couple of years my tomatoes have gotten so big that when they're really needing the support from the cage, it is too big, the cage can't. This is one of my tricks. So you always lose your tomato tags and you don't know what plants, at least I do. So I always like to attach my tag to the cage, or in this case, the string I have right above the plant, so that I know what plant I'm harvesting when I'm harvesting it. All they do is take energy from the plant, and then they're not producing any extra tomatoes, they're producing extra branches. So I'm not an expert at exactly figuring out what suckers are and which ones are just branches that you need, but I tend to not leave a ton of extra plant material.